Daryl, you try to tell people that they should manifest miracles. What do you mean by that, and why should you do it?
That's an interesting first question. I love it, but I'll tell you, I want to kind of change it a little bit. I don't teach people they should. I teach people they could manifest miracles because people can live okay lives just doing the normal thing that we're taught to do. And I'm going to work for a living and I'm going to get a little bit of money and I'm going to save up, etc. But the people who feel like there's something more out there for them, really, it is at your core as a human being to manifest miracles. And let me explain what that means. Anything outside of your current beliefs can happen. Anything, anything that happens outside of your current beliefs, whether that be I now have an amazing amount of money, a new opportunity, I found the love of my life, I am able to travel, I've got complete financial freedom, my health is amazing, can happen even though you don't believe it can. So anything that happens outside of current beliefs is what a miracle is. And the way you manifest that is by you tapping into yourself as the master creator, your spirit. That piece of you that is the energy of creation itself is already vibrating at what is your highest, happiest life right now. When you take your mind and your heart and get into alignment with your spirit, miracles are just the natural side effect. It just happens. And I've seen it in my lives and the lives of hundreds of people I've helped over and over and over again. Things just happen that make no logical sense. So we love to call them miracles, but there's a cause and effect there that comes from you living in alignment internally that creates those miracles.
When you say to live in alignment, I'm just imagining that I do something like breath exercise or to be more graceful or anything like that, help more people, whatever it is to feel more aligned. Of course, it's a stance for me right now where you just live in it in alignment and you don't really do anything else and then just miracles happen, like you get a raise without a big reason.
Yep.
Do I get anything wrong here? Because it really just sounds a bit too good to be true.
Yes, it does to the logical mind, to the ego that we're taught to live with. We live in a society. It's really interesting, Mo, because we live in a society that tells us that we have to fit a certain role, we have to do things a certain way, and you only get based on what you do. But you know in your life, you know there's people that you've seen who have way more come to them proportional to what they've actually done. There's people you know of that are a lot richer than others you might know, but have never done any work to get it. They just have it. It happens all the time. So really, when it comes to living in alignment, your superpower is one thing and one thing only. That's your awareness and your focus. You can spend your entire life focused on the outside world, and you're going to be in a constant state of force or fight, push or pull. Okay, well, I want more money. I'm going to push and I'm going to work harder and I'm going to get two more side hustles. Oh, I'm tired of the side hustles. Well, I'm going to let that go and just accept I won't have very much money. Or you shift your focus to internal. Because here's the reality. You weren't down here. You're not in this life to consume, to be a part of society, to just play the game. You have one purpose, and the purpose of life for everybody is to create experiences out of energy. You already have infinite energy. That's what your spirit is. Learning to turn that energy into experiences is what you're doing here. So the moment you shift your focus and awareness from external to internal alignment, and it can be in any number of ways. You mentioned like doing breath work, and these are all just tools. Like you can use any tool you want.
Mhm.
Any of them can work for you. But kind of like the Buddha said, his words are merely the finger that points at the moon. You don't focus on the finger, you focus on the moon. So whether it's meditation, whether it's breath work, whether it's manifestation techniques, any of those can work, but those are just the tools. What's most important is where's your focus? Are you actually paying attention to, am I in alignment right now? Or are you paying attention to, what do I have to get done in the outside world? There's an old philosophy in Taoism called the Wu Wei that states the master does nothing. And yet, through the master, nothing is left undone. Your job isn't to go do things, it's to become the master of creation and allow the things to happen.
Okay, so let's next few minutes, pretend logic isn't in the equation, and I try to get the focus from the outside perspective to more the internal one. What would be the first steps to really get going, do the right things for later as well? How can I focus more on my internally?
Well, first thing you're going to want to do, it's not as easy as it sounds to just say, well, I'm just going to stop paying attention to the outside world because your brain's already programmed to do it. You're programmed to respond. This person said something, I don't like it. I have to react, react, react. The first thing is to practice non reaction.
Mhm.
This is where mindfulness comes in. Your ability to say, okay, first, I'm going to learn what it's like to feel when I'm at peace. A lot of the tools I use are meditations for a reason, because in that meditative state, when you've blocked out the outside world because you are focused on the meditation, you can feel what that peaceful alignment feels like to you. Step one. Step two, okay, now everything in the outside world is just mindfulness. I'm aware of it. I don't ignore it. I respond to it, but I don't react, which means if something triggers you, so something happens, let's say you had some bad news and oh my gosh, I'm losing money. That feels scary. Okay, I will acknowledge that event happened. It's just an experience. Now I'm going to shift my focus from the event to what is the feeling. I'm just going to watch the feeling. So it's fear. I'm going to watch the fear until it passes, not to ask myself, why is the fear there? How do I solve it? What am I going to do? How do I prevent it? No, just watch how it feels. Oh, it feels like a sharpness in my chest. I feel heaviness here. Okay, I'm going to watch that. I'm allowing myself to feel because that's your heart's job. Your heart will tell you, is this experience in alignment or not? If it has fear, it's not in alignment. Okay, let me just watch it. Allow that feeling to play out because that's how the energies get fixed. And then my only goal afterwards is what feels like peace right now. And of course, your mind is going nuts. Well, you're losing money. You got to go do something about it. You've got to go fix it. If you don't fix it, then what about that's just the old beliefs playing out. So practicing that non-reaction, I think, is the biggest hurdle that the people I work with first have, is really being able to say, no matter what happens, good or bad outside of me, I'm at peace. The world could fall apart. I'm at peace. I could get everything I want. I'm at peace.
It actually sounds horrible, to be quite frankly, because what you just said was to not try to solve the fear, but to pretty much bathe in it, completely feel it, really try to understand it. And I think when I think about it, I think about a lot of pain and a lot of work in between. So, what is on the other side? When you get over this first hurdle, you know how to cope with feelings, you know how to, yeah, just feel them and not pay that much attention to the outside cause of your feelings. Is the fear really just going to get away because you observe it?
Yes. Let me tell you a story about one of the people I've worked with. So, somebody that's worked with me for the last couple years, this was probably about a year ago, she had this experience. She lost a very dear friend of hers, somebody she was very close to. It was very sudden. It was very unexpected. So, of course, we automatically go, okay, she's going to get to experience sadness and grief. And these are heavy feelings that people don't want to live in. And she did. And it triggered. And her initial reaction, because of the belief she had, was, oh, I'm going to distract myself from it. I got to go keep myself busy. I don't want to feel this. And I'm going to go do this. And she went for a drive to go do something, clicked on the radio. Every single song on the radio reminded her of her friend. So now she's feeling it even worse and it's getting deeper. And that's when it clicked for her. And she remembered, okay, let me practice non reaction. So she turned off the radio. She pulled over and said, I'm just going to watch the grief. What causes the pain to continue and spiral isn't the feeling, or your brain says it's going to last forever. It's what you imagine because of it. So if she starts to think about, well, I'm never going to see my friend again. And what about this? And what if I missed this? And was I good enough? Yeah, it's going to get worse. But she's not paying attention to those thoughts. She's focused on the feeling as an individual itself, just the feeling. And it shocked her. She came back to a group session and reported that it shocked her how quickly the grief was done. It was like 10 minutes. This is a lifelong friend that she unexpectedly lost. 10 minutes, the grief was gone. Then she had a little bit of a reaction of like, well, now I feel bad for not feeling bad. but that's all her heart needed to close that experience for her. If you really allow yourself to feel without the attachments to what it means. So she watched the feeling, and then when it was done, she was flooded with memories that just brought peace and what wonderful things they got to share together. And it switched that quickly.
And she never grieved again after those
Nope,
10 minutes.
nope.
Wow! Just to imagine how often we regret something, how often we think about stuff we could have done differently in the past, and we are always so resentful about it. But you're sitting here telling me that I just need to observe it, simply speaking, of course. I just need to observe it, and then 10 minutes later, I could be done with it for the rest of my life. Does it work with trauma, childhood trauma, real hard trauma in the same way? Is it just for every feeling completely the same?
Well, okay, let's talk about feelings for a second before I get into that. First off, I
Yeah,
do want to say it's not a 10-minute for everybody. That's just what
yeah.
her experience was. But it does pass quicker than you realize because the feelings are one thing and one thing only. Feelings are your omens. Is what you're experiencing in alignment with your highest self or not? If it feels like peace, it's in alignment. Lean into that. Pay more attention. If it doesn't feel like peace, if it's sadness, if it's pain, if it's fear, if it's the trauma response, it's not in alignment. Stop paying attention to that. And that's the key here. Most of the time when the feelings keep coming up over and over again, and I've worked with a lot of people that have had a lot of childhood trauma. I'm not going to use specific examples for their privacy's sake, but a lot of times those feelings keep coming back. It's not because of the trauma, it's because of your thoughts and attention put on the trauma. So you're starting to feel the pain and the anxiety and the depression of whatever you went through. The first thing you do if you're not in control of the feeling is your mind races. Well, this person did me wrong. And if they hadn't done this to me, and if my parents hadn't done this, and if I hadn't experienced this, and what about that accident? And what about the continued thoughts increase the feeling because your heart's telling you keep putting attention on those thoughts is not in alignment. That's not who you really are. Stop defining yourself by that. So you've got a little bit of a reaction, then you put more thought on it. Okay, now it's a bigger reaction. You put more thought on it. Now it's a bigger reaction. It's your heart saying, this isn't where your energy needs to go. And it will take some time. For somebody that's gone through trauma, I don't think it's going to happen in a one experience. What'll happen though is, and I will use without specific examples, is another person that I've worked with who had experienced severe abuse as a child. And I mean, she has gone through so many different abusive situations in her life. And she talks about there are times where all of a sudden the feelings get overwhelming. And if she remembers, just watch the feeling passes, but she can tell she's not done with it. But for right now, she's at peace. And when it comes back, she practices non reaction again. And each time gets a little bit less intense and a little bit less time until she feels like, hey, I'm done. That's no longer who I am. It's your thoughts that create the feelings. The feelings are not this independent, painful experience.
Okay, so let's say we mastered this first step. How does it help me to get more miracles and to to manifest them in life, to really accept them? That's just the normal part of me.
Okay. So I want to do two things here. So number one, we get past this first step where you really learn to not react to the outside. That means you now have the power to shift your attention from outside to internal. Number two is learning to live in alignment every day. So I will tell you, I wake up. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't remember I even had this interview till 2 minutes before when I saw my email. I don't make choices in my day anymore. I don't sit there and plan it out. I wake up, I go, what feels like peace? It felt like peace to check my email. I'm like, oh, look, I have this interview. Cool, let me get set up for that. It wasn't this big long plan. I'm looking forward to it. I have it all scheduled. I've got everything figured out in my mind. So what happens is when you learn to live in alignment is when you really start to step into the I'm not really doing anything but following the peace. I stay at peace. I feel my spirit, my heart, my mind in alignment. That's the feeling I'm in. If while I'm in that feeling, a thought comes up and it feels like that, I follow it. If nothing comes up, I do nothing until I get that inspired action. That's what happens. I'll give you a quick example from my life. So there was a time in my life a few years ago when I was really struggling financially. Like I had had a really decent income that just got pulled away from me. The boss of the company I was working for as a consultant sent me a message, didn't even call me, sent me a message that said, "Hey, we can't pay you anymore because we ran out of money." What? I've got my whole life planned on this income. What am I supposed to do? And so for a while, I was wallowing and wasn't following these principles. And it was hard. And it got to the point we almost got evicted. We had to borrow money just to keep the power on, things like that. And in the middle of this, I got myself back in alignment and just felt peace no matter what. Like, okay, we lose the house. I'm still at peace. I have nothing to eat. I'm still at peace. When I got into that mode, I had one thought hit me. And it said, go out and get a Pokeball. Now, a Pokeball isn't your typical fast food hamburger that you can barely afford to live on. This is a nice meal. And so, of course, my brain goes, you can't afford that. Why would you do that? You only have a few dollars. Don't go waste money on that. You need to save. You need to do this. You need to fix this problem and put out the fire. But no, it felt like peace. It felt like inspired action. So I got up and went and got a Pokeball. Now, the people I'm living with are struggling too. And I'm just going to go leave and go get myself a nice meal without them. This sounds like the most selfish thing in the world. Doesn't make logical sense. So I went to this poke place and it wasn't a great experience. They were out of so many ingredients. They were not doing well. You can tell that they had not handled their shipments well. And I had to kind of, well, whatever you've got, I guess is what I'll eat. And I went and got some iced tea. Took one sip of the iced tea and it tasted like mold. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. So I dumped it out and informed the people, hey, I think your tea has gone sour. You really ought to change it. And went and sat back down and got some water. And I'm sitting next to a gentleman who has half tea, half lemonade. And I'm like, oh, he probably won't taste how bad the tea is. He's going to get sick. I should tell him. So I warned him about the tea. He thanked me. He dumped it out. He got lemonade. And then we started talking. And he happened to be the owner of the local Comic Con down here that is a huge event. We started talking about our backgrounds. I've worked events like that with celebrities most of my life. He said, hey, I really need someone that has your expertise to help me run this because I'm doing things in a whole different way. And I need somebody who really has experience and I don't know anyone else. I'll pay you this amount, the exact amount I needed, if you'll help me.
A miracle.
I could not have planned that. There's no logical reason I could say, go get a Pokeball and you'll solve your financial issues. But
Mhm.
it did. That's the miracles that I'm talking about.
Wow. I'm sorry, but it's just a bit hard to believe in a logical sense. At the end of the day, I am German, so there's
I
also
love that you
a
said
bit
that.
of
That's
more
awesome.
skepticism with that. But wow, first of all, good for you. I'm thankful that it all worked out that good in the end. But are there how many stories of that kind do you have of your clients and yourself? Are there just unresistible proof that this all is really happening?
Well, before I tell you another story, let me ask you a question, though. Have you ever had something amazing happen in your life that you didn't plan?
When I really just think about it, um, there was always an action I did before. For instance, I had someone here, his name is Jill Maurice, maybe one of the biggest podcast guests I have ever had. And he wrote me on Instagram out of the blue without a notice. But I interviewed a very good friend of him before, so that's how that went. That's the closest I got to a miracle in the last year. I don't
Wait, wait, wait,
really
wait, wait,
comes
wait.
anything
Let's
to
let's
mind.
poke that one for a second, because your
Yeah.
brain loves to say, "Well, yeah, it's because I did these actions," but is it
Mhm.
really? You have a podcast. What's the goal of your podcast? Why are you doing this?
I'm doing this so everybody out there has an easier way to get to know what they really want to do with their life, because I had for a long time still struggling with it, not really a passion, nothing I really fire for, not really something I really, really, really want to do. And I want to give people a place where they can research very, very easily over a medium they like a podcast or a video, something that they want to know and they need to know for their life or their next life decision whatsoever. So that's the main goal of the podcast.
Okay, so let's go back. Before you started the podcast, you said you didn't really have a passion in life, didn't really know what you wanted to put your passion into, correct?
Yeah, strongly speaking, yeah.
Okay. So you had no passion. Let's go back a few years before that. Did you think I'm going to do a podcast about people decoding life? Was that what you wanted to grow up and be when you were a kid?
Close. I always wanted to be a YouTuber, but I think that is a dream of every 14-year-old these days. So
Truth.
there,
Truth.
there is not much to that. But interviewing people was also sometimes on my mind. Yeah,
Okay. So you always wanted to have a life decoded podcast ever since you were a kid. This is your dream. You planned it that way.
never.
Okay. That's my point. You can't plan what actually happens.
Hmm.
But the more that you stay in a higher vibration, your spirit, see, this is the thing that I think is hard for people to accept because logically it will not make sense. But your
Yeah,
spirit, that being, that eternal being that will exist beyond the body that is you right now, that being is always, always, always in sync with the entire creation of the entire universe. And so, even if it's through your logic because you have to prove it to yourself, it still got you to this exact moment that you could not have planned. There was nothing in your head that said, someday I'm going to go interview Daryl Shaun Price. You didn't plan that. It fell into place, yes, because of actions you took, but some of those, whether you realize it logically or not, were inspired actions.
yeah. But especially with this podcast, it's heavily inspired by another podcast.
Good.
Okay, so now, yeah, I can see that I dig myself a hole right now. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm getting on miracle onto miracle. Okay, so what you're telling me right now is that me listening to a certain podcast like Modern Wisdom extensively for a long period of time, that inspiring me to do a similar thing was miracle
Sure.
because it could have been any podcast out there. It could have been
You,
okay,
you
but
wanted to be a YouTuber. It could have been a gaming podcast, and now you're a gaming YouTube streamer.
yeah, still in the back of my mind. But first of all, we need to get the self improvement stuff going. No, but wow, okay. So everything I would describe as fate, you would describe as miracles a little bit. So are they just synonyms a little bit? Can we hold on that?
Yeah, I can agree for this discussion to that. I think there's a little bit of difference. One
Okay.
of the things people love is, oh, it was a coincidence. Oh, it was a coincidence. I don't
Yeah.
believe in coincidences. They don't exist. You created that opportunity for yourself. Just like my story with the going out to get the Pokeball.
Hmm.
First off, I, I only a few months before had discovered what a Pokeball is and the fact that I love it. Didn't know about them beforehand. Somebody took me to one. I'm like, oh, these
Yeah.
things are great. I love these things. So of course, what the universe does is like, you know what? He responds to Pokeball. Get him to do that one. Use that carrot to get him in the right place. You're led to where you will fulfill your destiny. The thing is, you have two choices. You can do one of two things at any moment of your life. You either struggle because you're trying to force something to happen, or you listen. The more you listen to that guidance, the less struggle you have and the easier the miracles come. So you're having miracles anyway. It's just how much struggle are you having in between?
Okay, hold on to that. First of all, I had a question in mind to who is creating those miracles. You just said you are creating them yourself because you don't think about the stuff, or you think about it, but you don't force anything, and therefore you are the cause for your next actions because you're picking the one that you are in peace with. Is it really you creating those situations? Because think about it, the other person that came with you to the Pokeball, place that was sitting there at the same time. This person probably didn't think about miracles the way you do. So someone or something needed to put him there to be in your miracle. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
makes perfect sense. And let me get a little scientific. I think this will help your skeptical, logical mind. So let's get into quantum physics for a little bit. Um, Current quantum physics theories are starting to prove that every particle is a wave until you observe it. It is the attention you put on that particle or on that wave that turns it into that specific instance that you're now observing. Until then, it is an infinite possibility. And so we know that on a quantum physics level, if you take that same concept and look at the energy that flows throughout all of the universe. So here, yes, I wanted to observe at some level something that would help me financially.
Hmm.
This person also, whether or not he believed in miracles, was wanting to find somebody who could help him with this struggle he was having. The universe itself energetically, and we know this just by observing how energies move, measuring them. You've got so many studies that have been done on it. The universe wants entropy as much as possible, as much harmony as possible. So I'm putting out this vibration of this desire. He's putting out this vibration of this desire. Universe goes, oh, those are in harmony. Let's bring it together. So yes, I created my reality. He created his reality, and it became one reality.
Okay, I can live with that. And please forgive me for the skepticism. It's really just
I love it.
curiosity
I love it.
because I hear of it for the first time. The second question, you just said by not forcing stuff but letting it happen, it all will go as planned. How can I make sure that it's still going the way I am envisioning my future? You know, you have your vision of your future, that there are two children, a family, perfect job, big house, big place, everybody's proud of you. And now you're letting go of all those pulls and pushes. You're just letting go of everything. Now you try to listen more to your intern, but how can you be sure that it will be the same future that you were envisioning when you were pulling and pushing?
That is a beautiful question. That is one of my favorite questions I've ever been asked. And by the way, I love your skepticism because I love talking to
Thank
people
you.
that don't. If I'm talking to somebody who already kind of believes this, all we're doing is just having a conversation. If I'm talking to somebody who, hey, we're getting to learn from each other's perspectives, it deepens my understanding too. So beautiful. Bring on the skepticism. But that being said, so we all have desires. Desires are breadcrumbs from the universe. And the end of it all, we're all just energy. The matter that is Mo isn't going to last forever, but that energy will continue in some form. So these breadcrumbs from the energetic pull of the universe are the desires. So think of it this way: your spirit is a being of pure energy. It's already vibrating at what is happiest and most in harmony with the rest of creation. So what it does is it's trying to get the mind and heart, which are the observers of the physical, to match that vibration. So it gives you little breadcrumbs. So you get this vibration from your spirit that might be the vibration of happiness. And your mind goes, okay, according to my current beliefs, that means family, two kids, my white picket fence, all these desires. The desires that it translates to are what your mind believes based on your current experiences. The feeling, that's where the heart comes in. The feeling is what really makes that come to be. So, for example, you desire to have the family, the two kids, people are proud of you, look at how successful he is in life. You don't actually care what that looks like as much as you care what that feels like.
Yeah.
What if it's three kids? What if it's one kid? What if you adopt two kids? I mean, it could be any number of variables. Your mind makes sense of it in one specific way based on your current experiences only, because your mind only knows how to process what is currently happening or what has happened based on your current beliefs. That's it. It's just a conscious processor, like a computer. So, what happens is when you get into that feeling, you hold on to the feeling more than you hold on to the vision of what it looks like. And you trust that as long as I stay in that feeling, that's my sign that I'm in the vibration to create the experience that most feels like I imagine that feeling. And maybe it's not the exact experience. Like a good example, I'm gonna go back to my story I just shared. I had no intention of going out and applying for a job at the local Comic Con, but it fit me perfectly. But I never even looked at that, never even would have thought I need to go apply for this job.
I hope this podcast episode did fit into the life of anybody out there in the audience as perfectly as in your story. Thank you so, so much for your time and your insights. Where can people go to get to know you a bit better or to keep up with your life?
Um, just my name.com. So DarylShaunPrice.com. I'm going to put some more stuff up there soon. There's a course up there if people want to learn to live in alignment, they can sign up for now. But anybody that's listening to this, if you feel like you want to really have the faith to create miracles in your life, just message me. I'll help.
Thank you so much for your time.
Come on.